Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorcom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. Guys, for those of you out there who have ever torn an ACL, a rotator cuff, meniscus, cartilage, or you've seen one of your favorite athletes tear one of those, you're going to love this interview today with Philippe Deschamps. He's the CEO of Chitogenx, which trades in Canada under CHGX, and for our friends in the US, CHNXF. Look, these athletes have torn some of those, and especially their ACLs. We're going to play that on the screen for you right now while we're talking. The problem is we all think that care and repair is pretty standard. Yeah, George tears ACL, has some surgery, comes back a few months later, all good. What we don't know is the great untold story that there are massive problems with failure rates. Rotator cuff surgeries will fail 40, 50% of the time. Meniscus 20 to 40%, cartilage 15 to 35%. These are big numbers. These are big failure rates. It's a major problem that Chitogenx is on its way to solving. They've already had successful preclinical trials. Now they're in clinical trials. We're going to talk about that. Essentially, they've got this technology platform that dramatically improves the success rate of both orthopedic and sports medicine surgeries. And it's a massive market. You're talking about rotator cuff, $600 million a year, meniscus, $1 billion, cartilage, $1 billion. It's out there. And in total, the orthopedic soft tissue repair market is $12 billion. And the company is in what we like to call the regulatory lead for these regenerative products. So here to talk about what's new since we last spoke, which is a lot. Philippe, welcome back, my friend.
Nice to be with you again, George. It's always wonderful to chat with you.
Well, look, I love having these conversations because I'm a big sports fan. So I watch some of my favorite athletes go down, and and now I have a different outlook on these things, especially knowing what you guys are working on. What I want to talk about first is more than just lip service. You're not talking the talk. You just successfully completed the initial portion of your rotator cuff clinical trials. How well did it go?
So thank you. I'm also a huge sports fan. I'll watch professional thumb wrestling if it's the two best guys in the world. So I share your passion for that, and certainly it is nice to be making progress here. So the clinical trial for your listeners and your viewers, the FDA had granted us to do a phase 1/2 trial. And roughly speaking, phase 1/2 trial, the whole trial is a phase 1/2, but there's a safety component to every trial, and there's a safety component throughout this trial. But the first 5 patients of the trial were really key because they were patients that we could only treat one patient at a time. And then we had to wait.
Right?
That's right. We had to do one patient at a time, and then we had to send the data to the Data Safety Monitoring Board. And then once the Data Safety Monitoring Board approved, then the second patient would get recruited. So it was a little tedious, but really, really important to establish safety. So I'm glad to report that we've completed that initial safety phase of the trial, and now we're able to recruit parallel. So all 10 sites can recruit simultaneously, and so we expect that the continued recruiting of the trial will go really handsomely.
And to be clear, no safety issues of any kind, no adverse events, because you were assuming that going in, but that's the point of trials, right? That George Calm Medical may assume everything it wants.
Yeah, you know what they say about the assume, huh? Makes an ass of you and me, huh? Right? So no, that's precisely correct. We had to get through this phase. It's important, and every company makes that assumption, and it's nice to know that it's in the rearview mirror now.
So you've gone from sequential testing where first George, let's see how, then Phil, then Mary. Now you're doing now they're all recruiting. So all 10 sites are actively recruiting. How and now you don't got COVID to worry about.
Nope.
So how fast is that recruitment going? Are you happy with the pace of how it's going?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the pace. Surgery that takes 6 to 8 weeks to the acute part of the surgery takes to recover. This is a This is a surgery that always takes about 6 months to fully recover from, and you follow up. So people plan their surgeries around the time of year, and of course, coming into the holidays, not a lot of people want to do their surgery. They want to finish the holiday. So it's a little bit slow right now, but we fully expect, and in fact, our sites are starting to schedule their patients as soon as the return from the holidays here. So we'll have a few in December, but we expect the spigot to open quite significantly in the first quarter here.
And for new people that are watching, ballpark, how long do you expect this phase of the clinical trials to take place?
I think we'll finish recruiting the trial by the end of the second quarter, and then it's a 1-year follow-up. But as you'll see as we further the discussion, this is a really important milestone. And while we wait for the 1-year follow-up, there's many things that we can do to create value for our shareholders.
Yeah, and well, one of which is the world isn't just sitting back and waiting. As you progress, things are going well. I mean, you've already said this in previous interviews. You've got some major companies from around the world that are knocking on the door, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I think it has a lot to do with we've always, the old name of the company was Ortho Regenerative Technologies. And so it was a regenerative medicine company focusing on the ortho world. And we're still, of course, that is our core concept and our initial target here. But what's interesting is I've been CEO for, I guess, 8 months now. And the first 3 or 4 months was really focusing on getting our clinical trial up and running, getting all the sites signed up, and getting that working really well. And I don't know what it is about life that you always have to sort of invent the Model T before the Thunderbird before you can expand your thinking. But the real genesis of the change to Chitogenx was a recognition that this orthopedic focus, as elegant as it is, because it's easy, it's huge amounts of surgeries, so the trial goes fast, and the performance of the trial goes fast. But if you sort of adjust your thinking just a little bit and you say, wow, rather than the full destination of the opportunity for our shareholders, let's imagine that now the ortho world is a proof of concept. So it's a proof of concept that will absolutely demonstrate that when you're able to take PRP, which is the platelet-rich plasma, and which is very liquid, and mix it with this biopolymer and have it stay resident on the rotator cuff, and that's what produces the benefit. And you sort of expand your mind a little bit. And I've got to give credit to my Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jonathan Sakier. He's a surgeon. And when he started to see how this performs physically, he said, man, he was a colorectal surgeon. And he said, man, when you do a bowel resection, you take a part of the colon out, and you have to then, that's cancerous, for example, and then you have to tie the 2 other pieces together. About 2% of the time, that it's called an anastomosis. It leaks, and it leaks nasty stuff, and 50% of the people die from those leaks. So he said, man, as a surgeon, if I had something that would be able to be sewn or painted on top of those sutures to prevent leaks, even if it prevented 5% of leaks, it would be a huge benefit to mankind, absolutely. Right? So those are the things that we're starting to look at. And what's really interesting, George, is
you don't need tears that when I tear at home, surgeries happen all the time. Surgeons have to tear things apart all the time, and they put them back together.
Yep.
So you can attack that entire market. Does that mean you have to go through all sorts of other clinical trials and things like that?
Sure, but the clinical trials they build on each other, right? So we're going to do the ortho world, and the part of the initial the initial trials in the ortho world is you apply to the FDA to do what's called an IDE, the ability to be able to do research on humans. And then when you do your second trial, about 75% of that work is about your manufacturing process, about the components of your product. All of that's done. So the second time, it's really about characterizing the second kind of patient that you're going to look at, and these different the evolution of the different target. So, for example, soft tissues or the tendons that tie the rotator cuff to the bone here is one of the applications. A second application may be another soft tissue that may be after what I just discussed, this bringing two parts of the colon together. And stopping leaks from happening. That's a second application. So in that case, we would have the same application to FDA. 75% is already is done, and then we would say our task now is to try and prove that when you paint our biopolymer with the PRP on this, it helps healing and prevents leaks. So that we would design the trial for that. And then the cool part, that's the regulatory side. But the cool part, George, is that the surgical world, an orthopedic surgeon doesn't do bowel surgery, and a brain surgeon doesn't do ortho surgery. So there's a really nice opportunity for an early development stage company for us to zero in on licensing these technologies to separate parts of the field that may shorten the amount of time ultimately, or help us develop partnerships so that we can develop these different indications for the benefit of our shareholders, based on the plethora of opportunities.
And the good news is you've already had non-ortho surgeons talk to you about, wow, this could really help me with what we got to do over here. And you've had major corporations already talk to you on the ortho side about taking your technology around the world. So this isn't just Phil and George, pie in the sky. The elements are really starting to come together, and then throw in the trials that are already succeeding really well. All the elements are there for something potentially really spectacular, right, Phil? Yeah,
that's correct. And again, I must give a lot of the kudos to Jonathan. He's very humble, but he's a world-renowned surgeon. He was one of the original surgeons that developed the system called the ESOPS surgical robot system that eventually became the Da Vinci system, which is the standard today. So he's a very well-known surgeon, and thus he has relationships all over the world. And when we started exploring this, we were able to sign memorandums of understanding with different universities and surgeons around the world that either have intramural funds or can apply for grants for us to complete that work, further helping our investors by bringing non-dilutive funding into the organization. So sort of everybody wins in that scenario.
Speaking of grants, you signed an MOU with the California Medical Innovations Institute.
Yep.
I didn't know who they were. Nobody at home knows who they are. But what stuck out for me was this group has received more than $100 million in grants. So this is George Call Medical Institute, some guy over at Kentucky Fried Chicken somewhere in California. This is a serious group. What are you guys doing together? What's the MOU all about?
Yeah, so the MOU is about investigating what we're going to describe as the tissue healing concept. So tissue healing, as I mentioned, we do the orthopedic tissue healing but when you think about all of the tissue, ultimately your heart is a tissue, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing work with them that demonstrates that our biopolymer can stick and allow regenerative medicines to be delivered to tissue based on the characteristics of the biopolymer. So I'll give you a great example. One of the first projects we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate with CAMI, or with the California Medical Research Institute, that our biopolymer sticks to various tissues. So the first project that we're going to do is we're going to show, does it stick to the heart? Does it stick to the liver? Does it stick to the pancreas? Does
and there are applications there
to the bowel?
Heart? They're actually.
Well, look, here's the one that's really exciting for the heart, right? So when you have an infarct, the scar tissue starts to form almost immediately. And so the idea is, could you bring stem cells to the heart and stop the scar tissue formations from happening? So the problem, of course, is your heart's beating 72 times a minute. So you need something pliable. You need something that's sticky. And so the idea is to see if we can't mix these stem cells with our biopolymer and PRP and immediately after infarct, literally paint the biopolymer onto the heart and deliver that regenerative medicine right to the heart for 4 to 6 weeks while it does its initial recovery. So that's the initial work that we're going to do with Call Me, and it's really, really exciting because it wasn't hard to get people excited about the gaps in regenerative medicine today. And by the way, for the audience, regenerative medicine is just a completely different approach to medicine rather than treating symptoms. It's wholly dedicated to making sure that we restore function to tissue. So whether they be organs, whether they be connective tissue, like we were talking about. So that's what I meant by sort of going to the Thunderbird when you had the Model T, when you sort of have the original ortho clinical trial well in hand, you can start thinking about other potential applications. And that was really exciting to have these discussions with these world-renowned surgeons that describe these unmet medical needs.
Well, you're like the company that what was the company that did the stick at the Post-it notes?
No, that's 3M.
3M. I'll say the 3D, but I was like, it's not 3D, 3M. But they essentially started with some simple technology for Post-it notes and realized they had way more applications for it. So, I know it's early, but I got to assume a group like the California Medical Institute here, yep, they took a long look at this. Again, you have to get on the field and prove it. But a group like this has had over $100 million in grants.
Yep.
Obviously took a very close look and has a very good feeling going into this that you guys can succeed. And then if you do, what happens at that point? Do you joint venture together because you kind of proven it together? So, with their kind of power, you can get out there and tell the world.
Yeah, let me describe the relationship that this is one of the premier research institutes in the world, and their expertise, George, is actually finding money to do this groundbreaking research. So that's where it was real, and their business model is to essentially live off the administrative fees of the grants that they get from NIH and other granting organizations to be able to do groundbreaking work. So what attracted them to us and us to them is the fact that together we have groundbreaking idea about doing that something that satisfies a very high unmet medical need that is perfect for early stage development for grants to be able to come. So it's really the mixing of those three things that make this a wonderful partnership. We bring in the ideas, their expertise is executing on that research, and then finding the grants to be able to fund that research.
And there's a great example of non-dilutive funding, because if you have to do this yourself, you'd have to go raise money, you got to dilute the stock. Here you're creating a partnership. And if it works out well, you're more than happy to give up a portion of all that to the Institute to do whatever you got to do. So the shareholder
actually, it's even sweeter than that, George. Sorry to interrupt you. It's actually sweeter than that because the Institute is basically they are work for hire. So all of the IP exists for the organization. We essentially they like I said, their business model is to make money from the administrative fees, which typically are 10 to 15% of all grants. So they live off that. They hire the top researchers in the world based on the kind of breakthrough research that they can attract people to do. And so that's what makes this really exciting. So
essentially, it's a dream scenario. That's
it really
dream
is.
Scenario.
So when you think about sort of taking it all back, it seems like, well, is this company focused on anything? I've really come to the realization that we are, as we do in the ortho world and as we could potentially do in these other indications, is we are a premier delivery mechanism for regenerative treatments. So whether it be PRP, whether it be stem cells, proteins, or any other kinds of things, since our biopolymer has really interesting characteristics to be able to stick to tissue, we can deliver it. So that's what guides now all the things that we do. And of course, the orthopedic indication is number one, and now becomes the proof of concept that will demonstrate if it does it here, and then when we do the California Institute work and prove that it also sticks to other tissue, then we feel that that there's going to be a sort of an overall proof of concept that this is a really cool core technology that could enable the regenerative treatment market.
Last question. So we've got the hockey stick growth initiatives, and they're going really well. Again, you're not just throwing spaghetti in the wall to see what sticks. You've also, what I like, news that you came out with since we last spoke, you're going to read it. You're pursuing the sales of medical grade Chitogenx as a new near-term revenue initiative.
Yeah.
What's medical grade Chitogenx, and how long until you can figure out if you're going to be able to generate near-term revenue?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, George. So it occurred to us that our biopolymer is a chitosan-based biopolymer. And chitosan on its own, without the PRP, because all of our intellectual property is the combination of those two things. So take the PRP out, the chitosan from a regulatory standpoint is called generally agreed to as safe. So if you make no claims, and in fact, I guarantee you that you've ingested chitosan hundreds of times through the supplements and through food supplements and things like that. So it's generally agreed upon as safe. We've developed a lyophilized or freeze-dried method that adds the ability to keep that stable for up to 3 years. And so we feel that we can compete in the $250 million worldwide, roughly $125 million North American chitosan market to try and generate some early revenue, meaning 18 to 24 months from now, to go through the process of being able to prepare to supply this to the industry. And the way that this would work is we find, and we have found, in fact, a manufacturer that can make this for us at scale. And as pharmaceutical grade companies look to have a biopolymer that's sticky, that has homeostatic, meaning that it helps blood coagulate, it has antiseptic qualities. So all of these kinds of qualities that the biopolymer has may be able to independently help companies generate better ideas. So that's an idea that I'm kind of excited about, because again, trying to find a way to generate non-dilutive funding for the growth of our company. But clearly, the big opportunity is the first we spoke of.
Now, Philippe, now we know why you're brought in as the CEO. I mean, previous CEO was great, but you're doing some amazing things. And every time we speak, what I love is the tentacles keep getting bigger and bigger, but they're related to each other. You're not chasing opportunities. You're just stacking one. It's like a technology developer, with a technology stack. You start with this, then you naturally add that and that. Before you know it, now you've got this, and that's what you do with Chitogenx. Thanks for joining us today. Amazing stuff. Can't wait and I love the fact that we don't have to wait just for rotator cuff trials to finish. Now there's other elements that's going to keep you coming back and back to talk more. So hopefully we'll have you back before Christmas.
All right. Thank you, George, and all the best of the holiday season.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. To Philippe Deschamps, CEO at Chitogenx, CHGX in Canada, CHNXF in the US. For those new to the story, and there's still going to be more and more of you, and you want to do your due diligence because you've either been through this personally, through a family member, or just through your favorite athlete, Michael Gallup, Dallas Cowboys, that crushed me when he went down with the ACL, and you want to do your due diligence, get the company's profile page on Agoracom. As complicated as this is, we've neatly laid out for you in a really understandable layout, so you get a good foundation and you know exactly what the company's doing. And then head over to the company's website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.